I didn't end up putting it as one of my hot takes, but I was just thinking about like fighting games are really, really fun, but like you need so much, like if you just have gone all of your gaming career, never picked up a fighting game before, I feel like you're not going to like mid-20s just get into tech and really like, you're not going to like, that's too much internal language and stuff like that. What's the word? Like vernacular.
I think that's true for video games in general. Like it's hard to get into them later in life. Because it's like all about like muscle memory and like, you know, just like having like there's a YouTuber I follow called Razbuten. Razbuten, and he's done 2 videos now on having his wife who's never played games before like try games, and it's like a sort of a study, like an informal experiment on how someone who's never played games before reacts to like gaming like mechanics, and like has a lack of like awareness of certain things that we would probably consider normal. And it's a really interesting series. I suggest people look it out. It's just like games for the non-gamer or something like that. But it's funny because going back to the PlayStation, when I first got Ratchet and Clank, I struggled because I used a Game Boy before and had the D-pad down. Like I understood mechanic, like how to use a D-pad, but I didn't know how to use an analog stick yet. Like I was learning. I was like 6 years old, and through Ratchet and Clank, I learned how to use an analog stick because it's a platformer, and you could control your movement via the D-pad in that. It was an alternate option. And that was the way I did it at first. And I got to like the second world, and there was like a part where you have to like walk on like a narrow pathway that's like winding, and I just couldn't do it with the D-pad. Yeah, I just couldn't do it. Like, and my brother was like the one using the analog stick, and he was like, use it, it's how you get past this. And I was like, no, I couldn't. And eventually it like trained me to do it, and now like that had clearly opened the door for me to play other console games or games with a controller. And also I think it's a big part of why I still like I feel like when I really think of like what are games to me, like what do I think of as games, like what are the majority of my gaming experiences, it's like RPGs, and that mostly comes from playing Pokemon on handheld, and then platformers on a console, and that includes like what I consider like some of the evolutions of that, which is a lot of like modern action adventure games like Assassin's Creed or Uncharted and stuff. Like it's like those kind of like I love fighting games, but I kind of came to them later other than Smash Bros. And I love, you know, driving games and skating, like a lot of that stuff, but it's just not like when I think of like, you know, what is a game to me? Like what do I think of first as a video game? Like what's like my prime example? I really think of like platformers and RPGs, and I think it's that initial experience. But yeah.
Okay, so I just realized like I don't really have much affinity toward platforming games, and I think it's because I don't have like the early experiences. Like obviously I'm trying to think of the first Mario I've ever played, and I think it was for the DS, like New Super Mario Bros. For the DS, which was still like, to me, the fact that I have memories of those ads on TV means that I was too old for it to like have had that like innate, like I now love platforming. Cause like even when I played Odyssey, like I had the like nostalgia for Mario, but then when the game ended, I was like, I feel nothing. Like I don't need to, like I never need to play this game again.
You don't get the rush out of like the actual gameplay.
Yeah, like to me, for a game to be considered a platformer, like I feel like most of the dopamine that's released in your brain should land like or should get released when you land a jump, like make it difficult. Like when I watch Uncharted gameplay or like Tomb Raider gameplay, I'll see people like, oh, like they exhale as they make the landing, or they will climb up and then something will like pop out of the wall, and then they're like, oh shit, like that just does nothing for me. Yeah. So like,
I think I don't know where I heard this from, but it's not an original thought, so I don't want to take credit for it. But I've seen people say that what the appeal of platformers is that they it's not it's usually pretty clear how you get from point A to B, how you solve a problem, and then it's a matter of executing. Where like especially in like really tight level design, it's like you see like, oh, I need to like do this run to get that jump and bounce off that thing to get there. Now I got to execute it. Versus like puzzles where it's like once you figure out what you got to do, you just do it. Like that's not the hard part. And like both have their appeal, but specifically with platformers, like it's about that. It's about that, you know, actual execution of the situation. I think that goes for Ratchet and Clank is much more of an action platformer, but the way like bosses are designed in that and in a lot of other platformers, it's a matter of like you do the thing 3 times. That's usually what it is. Like you do the same. You hit it when it's weak 3 times and then it's over. So it's all about like you identify what you have to do pretty quickly. It's usually telegraphed, and then you got to execute it 3 times, like or how many ever times. So it's cool how that transfers over.